So this is the Queen's final ride. She is in a hearse. She's on her way to Windsor Chapel, which is where Harry and Meghan were married. This is the long walk, the procession, and the last chance for people to see the late monarch before she heads into the chapel, has her service, and then goes to the burial area. Now, at this point, we do not see the family marching behind the hearse. And there is not much space. These people are really crowded into a very narrow path. And I think the family is probably taking precautions. I don't know whether they normally would walk or not. But during the last march they did in the morning, which was a very, very long march after Westminster, I was concerned about Charles. He looked like he was probably going to fall over. Because, you know, he's 76, and usually we see him, you know, standing, maybe giving a short speech, or sitting on a couch or in a chair. But he's not really doing anything strenuous. I know he likes to fish and he likes to garden. But this had him walking for a long period of time at a pretty good clip. And there was no place for him to rest or take a break or anything. And I think even Princess Anne was concerned that perhaps he wasn't going to fare well.
Just talk us through what to expect for the remainder of this journey.
Quiet these people. And I think even Princess Anne wasn't sure he was going to fare well with the whole deal.
Effectively inside the castle grounds.
So she was watching him. And luckily he made it. He didn't look like he was breaking a sweat. He didn't look wobbly. But he started walking closer to Princess Anne. And of course Princess Anne is just a very feisty lady. She's older too. But she just has that sprint in her step, and she looks like she's very athletic. And I don't think Charles ever does any cardiovascular exercise, so he was more strained with that particular activity. So for this part, the family is not behind the hearse, and they probably already went up to the chapel where they say 800 people are inside. Now, from the morning church service at Westminster, before the service ended, they took people from one section of the congregation and already had them mobilized to go to Windsor for the second part of the burial services. And they said that President Biden was in the 14th row of the services, and that probably was because he was in the row where they were emptying out people early, so he could get out of the service a little early, go to the bathroom, freshen up, maybe talk to people, and then get into a car and then get taken over to Windsor for the second part of the funeral. So being in the 14th row, people were trying to say that was some sort of indignity, but I think that was just because they knew they were going to remove people from the middle to the back of the church in one particular section, and they were going to give them a head start in getting out of the service and letting them take a little bit more time in getting to Windsor. So I think that's what happened with him. Now there's already a controversy. I don't know where this started, but somebody's saying that Harry told somebody that he was the last person to be informed that his grandmother had died. And, I think to me this is a non factor. I think normally when you have somebody who's very old, and everybody had said for a very, very long period of time that she was at death's door, and it's how you treat the person up until that time. Every conversation you have, every meeting you have with that person, every time you say I love them, or give them a hug, or give them a kiss, or listen to them tell their stories. Of course, that is what's important. It's what you do when they're able to listen and respond. And of course, many families, if they know somebody is that ill, that old, and, appears like getting worse, a lot of times they'll spend the whole day. They go and they don't wait for a sign or a phone call. They're there all day and most of the night, sitting next to the person and just making sure they're comfortable. So that's the other alternative you can do if you want to be one of the first people notified that somebody has died. Because when somebody dies, they don't normally have somebody run to the phone. I mean, there are moments of grief, and as people mill in and out or call, they'll be informed. And once the person is dead, once the heart stops, it doesn't matter when you're informed, because there's nothing else you can do. They've already passed on. You should have said your words of love and respect and affection long before that moment. So, watching somebody go from being alive to dead is not really that important if you're not there anyway. So, I mean, there's no sense jumping in a car and rushing through traffic and almost killing people trying to get to somebody who's already dying. So, these people will fight about anything, and that's the newest thing I heard, that it's come up as a controversy. How far after death was I notified? Well, you're not going to do anything different, whether it's a second or 2 hours after death. So that's a non-issue, and we need to get rid of that right now before this becomes another 2-year, 4-year debate as to who was told when. It's not important. It's not important. You can probably check on your cell phones if you really are that interested. But there's a lot of things about her death we don't know. We don't know the exact time she died. We don't know what she died of. We don't know if she was complaining of any health discomforts when she died, or what they were doing for her. So there are lots of things that are unknown about her death and will always remain a mystery. But I would like to know what she died of, and I would like to know how they took care of her body after she died, because that's always very interesting how different groups do that sort of stuff. Now, this is the biggest funeral you'll ever see, and it's because she's not a political figure. If a political figure dies, well, that's very divided. Some people are for that party, not for that party. But the Queen was apolitical. She worked with the government, but she's not part of the government. She worked with churches, but she was not a leader of a church. She was in the middle. She was more of an ambassador. She did receptions. She did parties. She would go give out certificates. She would visit schools. She would visit all of the Commonwealth countries and listen to what's going on with them and assure them that the Commonwealth cares about those countries, and those countries include not only Canada and Australia, but many, many countries in Africa, many of the black small islands, parts of Asia, all over. And so she would have to visit all of these Commonwealth countries so that they would be assured that there is still respect by the Queen, who's head of the Commonwealth, for those countries. Now, England is not automatically head of the Commonwealth. That has to be voted in. So more than likely they'll vote in England again as head of the Commonwealth, but that is not automatic as to who is head of the Commonwealth. So she is an apolitical figure, and she basically worked with the group that did most of the financing, caring for money, caring for houses, and so forth, that were part of the Commonwealth. And then they would basically assign the active working royal members to all of these activities. So they're always being assigned to go to various countries, to go to various activities. If there's a reception, they'll tell the Queen, they'll tell several other people that they are supposed to show up at this reception and who they're supposed to meet. And that's what they do. They show up. They get paid a salary by the fund. And so every year or a couple years they decide how much these royal members get paid for their activities. And it's it's a large sum. So it's a very different position. It's more of an ambassadorship. It's not a government job, and it's not a religious job. It's more of meeting and greeting, socializing, keeping your thoughts to yourself about political issues, not revealing your political party, not talking about your religious beliefs, although you do attend church because that is part of the basis of the Commonwealth. And they have the Scottish Church, Episcopalians, and so forth. But you don't go out and start getting very partisan about all of this stuff. You keep that stuff to yourself and remain apolitical, and just keep the Commonwealth happy and united. Okay, I'm going to end this right here. Thanks. Like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye-bye.